Child Development Week, Day 3. You are about to view BCDI Houston's presentation entitled Smarten Up, the Black Male Summit. Houston speaks to our organizational theory of change in mobilizing our communities from the inside. Houston will touch on one of our 8 future outcomes that all Black children are seen as that, children. Please enjoy and leave your commentary below.
Let's talk facts. The gangster lifestyle is an illusion. An illusion is something that does not exist in real life. How many of us got to die and go to jail in order for us to see the light? Let's talk facts. The gangsters really ain't even winning out here like that. It's the welders, it's the coders, it's the young farmers and the plumbers that are out here winning. Let's talk facts. Suicide among Black males has increased by 80% in the past 2 decades. 50% of Black males are arrested by the police before the age of 23. And let's be real, it's easier to find a gun out here than it is to find a decent job. These statistics do not scare us at the Black Male Summit. As a matter of fact, it motivates us. It motivates us to want to educate, empower, and encourage Black men and boys with a greater sense of urgency.
Y'all. If you've ever heard me speak before, I start off with 4 quick questions. So for the young people in the room, I want y'all to participate with this. How many people in this room eat food? Just by a show of hands. All right, put your hand down. How many people wear clothes? Okay, go ahead, put your hands down. How many people drink water? Okay. How many people put fuel in a vehicle? All right. If you answer yes to any of those questions, those are 4 ways in which agriculture touches your life on a daily basis and you don't even think about it. Those are 4 ways in which agriculture touches your life on a daily basis and you don't even think about it. Next slide. So this is a little bit about me. I'm born and raised here in Houston, more so specifically, I'm from Fifth Ward. I take pride in being a husband and a father. I graduated from Prairie View A&M University with a bachelor's degree in agriculture. I went on to Iowa State University and got a free degree from there because I had good academics. I could not dribble a basketball. I could not run down anybody's field. But yet these people paid for my degree because I was smart. Got my master's degree from Iowa State University. I have over 20 plus years experience in youth development, over 10 years experience working in agriculture and food systems in a professional way. And aside from being a husband and a father, the thing that I'm most proud of on there is in 2021, I developed a program in 2018 called Houston AgriPower. This is to be able to show young people what the power of agriculture is, how it can change and turn around our communities and really create jobs that we can have for ourselves. But in 2021, I was awarded a grant from the US EPA to address food deserts in Fifth Ward and Cashmere Garden. So folks not able to grow their own food, we need to have a system, a way to be able to provide them with fresh food on a regular basis. And so that's what it is that we're doing with the Black United Fund of Texas.
The definition. It says the process of developing, organizing, and running a new business to generate profit while taking on a financial risk. I want to take a little different approach to entrepreneurship at this point because it's a different time in the world. A lot of times you look at these pictures, you see people smiling, you think of entrepreneurship as being your own boss, making your own schedule, doing what you want to do. It kind of sounds like it's optional. But what if I told you there's no option anymore? To survive what's coming is going to depend on if you get up off your butt and do something for yourself. Next slide. So what's coming? Let's look. You have World War III heating up around the world. You got the decline of the dollar. The foundation of economic education says the dollar has now lost 92% of its value. Have y'all thought about that? Have y'all thought about the day when your dollar in your pocket can't buy nothing? Think about that, because nobody in here has been through that. Your grandmother, great-grandmother, it's always been the US dollar, the medium of exchange. We have a food shortage that's here. And look at the bottom. We have the AI revolution, artificial intelligence. Goldman Sachs says they predict that artificial intelligence will replace 300 million jobs in 5 to 7 years. If y'all like me, I didn't even know we had 300 million jobs in Houston. I mean, in the US. So we don't have the luxury of thinking, oh, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna just go get a job, or I can always go get a job. That job may not be there. Next slide. What are the odds? So we gotta be more strategic. I know some of you in here, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 14, you think you got time, but you're living in a different time, okay? We gotta be very strategic about how we spend our time and not invest so much time in games. So let me ask y'all a question. Who in here is an investor or is a future investor? Raise your hand. If I said, I got an investment opportunity for you, give me $5, invest it into my business, and there's a 100% chance I can double your money, who would take that investment? What if I said it's a 50% chance? What about a 10% chance? Okay. What about a 1% chance? Man, y'all brave. What about a 0.03% chance? That's tough, right? That's almost like impossible, right? Do you know, according to Sports Digest, that's the probability of a young man making it to the NBA? 0.03%. So what I'm asking you is, if most of y'all wouldn't invest $5 because those odds seem impossible, why would you invest your whole life into a game with those same odds? Now, don't get it twisted. I love sports. My children play sports. I play sports. I watch sports. But why would you invest your whole life into something that when the pandemic jumped off, the government said was non-essential? Non-essential, if you look it up, it means unnecessary. It means needless. It means unimportant. Am I making sense? Next slide. So Brother Silky, he had I don't know where he went, but he had a slide similar, right? Look at this. This is funny, but it ain't funny. I don't know. I hope so. Well, that baby may be 1 year old, maybe. For sure, ain't 2 yet, right? But you can already see that he's been exposed to the music, culture, and entertainment. My question is, why don't we teach our babies business this early? Do you know if you master the fundamentals of business rather than the fundamentals of sports at a young age, by young adulthood, you almost guaranteed their financial success? That's crazy. So, not to them, right? So parents, instead of letting your children scroll for hours on social media, teach them how to market a product on social media so that they're making money, and you're using social media as a tool instead of social media using them as a tool. Because you know what social media calls their clients, their consumers? Call them users. That's what they're called. They're called users. So teach them, instead of Facebook, teach them QuickBooks so that they know how to document revenue and expenses, and they know how to file their taxes properly so they don't end up owing the IRS like most of us. Next slide.
Life means you have activity in accord with your nature. When you are a living person, you don't ask others to feed you, clothe you, shelter you, educate you, give you a job. If you are rich in the energy of life, you are rich in business. Business means busyness, active, doing what a living person should do. If we as a people, now I'm talking to black people, you got a job, You mean you're going to give the job to that white person and not to me? I'm qualified. You may be qualified, but doesn't he have the right to look out for his own? Are you going to fault him for looking out for white children before he looks out for you? What is your duty? Why haven't we accepted responsibility? Are you trying to say to the world that we are so inferior as a people that we can't do these things for ourselves? How can somebody that's doing that respect someone who won't even accept the duty and responsibility to do something for themselves? Are you thinking?
I want to bring up a Black Male Summit alumni, a brother who we're very, very proud of. Back when he was a freshman at Texas Southern University, he started attending the Black Male Summit. Since then, he's graduated from law school, became an attorney, and is doing some wonderful things with his life. He's young, he's Black, he's powerful, he's on the come up. Give it up for brother Anthony Collier.
We're running a little long time, so I'm going to get straight to it. If y'all don't mind, I'd like to start with a prayer. Everybody bow your head, close your eyes. I pray that we receive the heart of David, the wisdom of Solomon, the integrity of Job, and the favor of God. In Jesus' name, amen. So Proverbs 3:6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways and he'll direct your path. That scripture is the story of my life. And my life starts with my grandmother. When my grandmother was a young woman, she went to Louisiana to attend a carnival. She went with her cousin. And they ended up going to an event that's not appropriate for a child of God. So one of the event organizers went on stage. He looked in the crowd and he said, if your mother is a preacher or a deacon, this is not the place for you and you should leave. And my grandma's parent was a preacher and a deacon, so she started to feel a little uncomfortable. It was like a peep show or something, like something she had no business being at. And so she didn't want to look lame, but she didn't want to look like a square. So instead of leaving, she was like, I think I'm going to stay here, even though something about it just don't feel right. So a few moments later, he went back on the stage and he said, if your father is a preacher or a deacon, you should leave right now and we'll give you a refund if you leave right now. And so she said, you know what, let me go ahead and be obedient and let me leave now. And she asked her cousin to walk her out because she didn't want to feel alone. And as she was standing outside contemplating what just happened, she looked up and she noticed a hat floating from the sky. And it landed right next to her. And she was like, I wonder where this hat came from. She looked to her left and she saw a Ferris wheel out in the distance. And so she picked up the hat and waited. And about 5 minutes later, a handsome young man walked up to her and said, excuse me, ma'am, but I believe you have my hat. And that man was my grandfather. So I need y'all to understand this. You never know what blessings you miss out on by disobeying God. My entire makeup, my entire DNA is forged from my grandmother being obedient to the voice of God. So fast forward to I'm in law school, and this is the amended version, as Brother Derek knows, but I'm in law school, and every night before I go to sleep and every morning when I wake up, I pray and I talk to God and I listen to God. And that particular night, God was like, call your aunt, call your aunt. Now I have 12 aunts. My grandparents went on to have 12 kids, 8 girls and 4 boys. And my dad also had 4 sisters. So I have 12 aunts. But God was like, I want you to call this particular aunt. So you know what I did? I went back to sleep. But I said, I should have called my aunt, but I said, you know what? If I still feel this way in the morning, then I'll call her. So the next morning I wake up and pray, same thing, call your aunt, call your aunt. And I was still disobedient. I was like, this is so strange. Let me text her. So I text her and I say, hey, you've been on my mind. I just wanted to check on you and make sure you was okay. She texts me back and says, can I call you? So I'm like, okay, let me call my aunt. So I call my aunt and she's on the phone crying, like bawling her eyes out, hysterical. I'm like, what is going on? What's wrong? So come to find out, her daughter, which is my cousin, is missing, on the run from the police. Her two grandbabies, which are my little cousins, have been taken by Child Protective Services. It's been weeks. She has no idea if they're even alive. She can't get them to return her calls. She can't get them to return her emails, and she has no idea what's going on with her grandbabies. And at the time, I'm in the Texas Legislative Lawyering Clinic at UT Law, working in the Texas Senate with the power to do something about it. So there was no way that she could know I was in a position to help her. And there was no way for me to know that she needed my help. But God heard her cries and he saw her tears and he decided that he would use her nephew to help her. So I go to the Senate that morning and I make one phone call. And by that evening, she's able to schedule a visitation with her grandkids. We get those babies out of Child Protective Services and get them in the homes of loving family members. And that's just from, the Lord ordering your steps. So the last story I'll say is I graduated from law school. I had a couple of job offers. I didn't know which one I should take. But as I mentioned, Proverbs 3:6 says, acknowledge him in all your ways and he'll direct your path. So I prayed and I asked God, what job should I take? And I look up and I have a missed call from the dean of the Texas Senate. So I call him back and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry I missed your call. He was like, oh, actually, I didn't even mean to call you. It was a pocket dial. But while I have you on the phone, let's talk. And during that conversation, he offered me the job and convinced me to take it. And, they also gave me a raise and promotion, made me general counsel to the Texas Senate Committee on Criminal Justice. And this is not something I ever applied for. This is not something I ever asked for, right? Some people will say, how could you get such a prestigious job as your first job out of law school? And I would reply, sometimes God doesn't call to qualify, he qualifies the call. So, and it's a lot of terrible things going on at the Capitol right now, right? One good thing, I'm wearing this pin right here. This is a crown for two reasons. One, because the young men in here are kings, but also because we got the Crown Act passed, which is going to protect our kids from being discriminated against at the Capitol for wearing locks and braids and other protective coverings. And that was from Representative Bowers out in Dallas and also Representative Ron Reynolds, who was here earlier. But there's a lot of, that was one highlight and a lot of lowlights, y'all. It's a lot of terrible things going on. I need y'all to pay attention. And as you go on to become CEOs and athletes and doctors and lawyers, don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the people who sacrificed to put you in the position that you're in, right? When I think about Texas politics, I draw inspiration from Freddie Haynes when he visualizes Jesus having a conversation with the Texas government saying, when I was hungry, you cut food stamp programs. I was sick because you poisoned the air and the water for profit in Northeast Houston and in other vulnerable communities. I was in prison because of your school to prison pipeline and your prison industrial construct. And I died a shocking and inhumane death because you refused to put air conditioners in the prison. And when I was a stranger, you wasted billions of taxpayer dollars on building the wall, and you cut diversity, equity, and inclusion funding at your schools. And when they ask, Lord, when did we do these things to you? Jesus will reply, when you did it to the least of these, you did it unto me. So I want you to always be able to join me in saying, when I stand before God on Judgment Day, I won't be asked the question posed to Cain, where were you when your brother's blood was crying out for God? So I want everybody to repeat after me. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. There is no me without you. There is no you without me. We're all a part of a circle of interdependence. If it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me.
Okay. But now this is what we do. We can't deal with y'all on the level of being a partner. But y'all will be aware of us in case one of the women or men that y'all trying to help has a background. We help these men and women who've been impacted by the criminal justice system get back into the job market, get themselves back together. They come home, we make sure they go to school, we make sure they get employed, we get them fill in their resume gaps, because while they're in prison, they might work in the food industry. They don't know how to put that in writing. So we do resumes, mock interviews. We have companies come in and interview them and let them know what's good and what's bad about the interviews and stuff. So we just get them job ready.
Large, extra large, and 2X. Is that gonna be too tight? That may work.
I don't think it'd be too tight. It will be flat.